Billy has trained horses all his life and usually sells them for a huge profit. The horse he had been training for the past year showed enough potential to enter a race and possibly win. Billy didn't usually enter his horses into contests, but he had a good feeling about it. That was his first mistake. Welcome to Wonderbot Animals. On the day of the competition, Billy entered the grounds with his giant horse. When a member of the jury saw the animal, he immediately approached Billy and told him that his horse had to have a blood test before he could enter the race. Billy knew this wasn't standard procedure, but he didn't want to make a fuss, so he took the horse to the vet, who was on site. After the vet checked the horse, he informed Billy that he had just called the police and they were on their way. Billy was in disbelief. Why had the vet done that? When the police arrived, they immediately started asking Billy questions. But Billy wanted to know what he had done wrong, and that's when the police informed him that his horse was in the operating room. Billy answered all the questions about himself and the horse he had owned for about a year. But what had the vet found inside the horse that had shocked him enough to call the police? Before Billy could even figure out what was going on, he was escorted away by the officers. As he was thrown into the police car, he asked one of the officers if his horse was okay. Billy was very concerned and he hoped his horse would make it out alive, but the officers didn't say anything. He was then taken to the nearest police station for questioning. They left Billy in an interrogation room and told him he had a few moments to think while they checked with the vet about the state of the horse. After that, they would ask him some questions. Billy's heart rate was through the roof. Was his horse in danger? When the officers started interrogating Billy, he didn't hold anything back. He explained to them that he had been training the horse for about a year. He wanted to make it strong enough to participate in races. He usually trained horses and sold them, but he wanted his own horse this time. When he came across the horse he had, he knew he could win a race. Now, the police wanted to know where he got the horse. But before we get into that, please like this video to help it reach 5K likes and subscribe to the channel. When the police asked him where he got his horse, Billy had a story to tell. You see, his old horse, who was also his best friend, just died. Billy was miserable about his loss, and he was in a lot of pain, so he decided to get another horse as soon as possible to see if that would help with his grief. Finding a horse can take a while though, so he decided to take shortcuts. In that process, it seems like he trusted the wrong people. The old owners of his horse were a little shady, but Billy was desperate. He found the two horse breeders online and he communicated with one named Mark. Billy asked how the horse got so big and strong, but Mark avoided the subject and dodged the question. The horse was beautiful and very muscular, so Billy wanted to take him home. Mark said he would email Billy the horse's documents, but he never did. Understandably, the police wanted to know who this Mark was, and Billy provided all the information he had on the man. However, the officers still suspected that Billy was withholding information. The police found Mark and brought him in for questioning. Mark provided all the necessary documents, and he even gave the police a blood sample he had taken of the horse before selling it to Billy. All this exonerated the man, so the police turned their attention back on Billy. When Billy was informed about Mark, he insisted he hadn't done anything to the horse. But he had another idea of who could be involved: his horse trainer. Shortly after getting the horse, Billy wanted a new trainer to work with the animal. That's when he connected with David, who assured Billy the horse would be ready to compete in no time. Billy could see the horse was getting stronger every day, but he had no idea why and he didn't look into it. He was blinded by ambition and the thought of winning a lot of races. Once again, the police were not convinced, but they still set out to find David. In the meantime, Billy would stay in a detention cell, and if he resisted, he would be charged with obstruction of justice. Billy was in complete distress. He just wanted to go home. He knew he didn't commit any crime, and he couldn't believe that there was a possibility he would be kept in jail for something he didn't do. Eventually, Billy was allowed to call someone, so he decided to call his wife, Erica. What he heard next was crazy. His horse was all over the news, and now Billy knew he was in big trouble if the real person wasn't caught. After about 5 hours in his cell, the police captain came to take him to another room. Billy wasn't sure what was going on, but the police captain looked very serious. When he entered the room, Billy found there was a lineup of suspects behind a glass window. Then the captain asked him to point to the man who trained his horse. Billy looked at all the men and he immediately recognized David. He was number 4 on the lineup, and that's what he told the captain. The man denied any involvement with the horse, but the police took his fingerprints. With his fingerprints, they did a full background check on the man, and the name that came up was Michael, not David. It turns out this man had been in prison before, and he had been charged several times. But what had he done to Billy's horse? The next thing the police did was get a warrant to search Michael's house, and when they entered, they found a large amount of illegal substances that could be used on different animals. They also found dogs and cats in cages. The man even had a huge snake in his living room. At this point, Billy wanted answers, so an officer finally explained things to him. Michelle wasn't a horse expert, and he had a criminal record due to his medical practices with animals. But what exactly did he do to Billy's horse? To find that out, they had to go to the vets. Billy was cleared of any suspicion, and he was escorted by the police to the veterinarian's office where his horse was still in the operating room. Billy was so worried about his horse, he didn't want the animal to die because he was blind enough to trust the wrong people. He didn't want his ambition of winning races to take his horse's life. When he entered the office, the receptionist immediately ran to Billy. She assured him that his horse was still alive and the veterinarian would do everything he could to make sure his horse made it. Then, Billy heard a loud noise coming from the operating room. Quickly, Billy and the police went to see what was going on. When they entered the operating room, they saw that the vet was performing an ultrasound on the horse's belly. It turns out there was a chip inside the horse's body which had been illegally manufactured by Michael. They had to remove the chip, which is what the operation was all about. Eventually, the veterinarian got the chip out without too much trouble. Earlier, when they ran blood tests on the horse, the veterinarian noticed there was an illegal substance in the horse's blood. With all this information, the vet was able to deduce that the illegal substance was making the horse strong, while the chip delivered electric shocks when the horse ran so the animal could be faster. That's why the veterinarian who examined the horse at the races called the police. Thanks to the jury who requested a checkup on the horse, the veterinarian, and Billy's information, they were able to save the horse from abuse and get Michael arrested, so he couldn't do the same thing to other animals. In the end, Billy decided he would never participate in any races. He decided to become a horse breeder, and he would focus on taking care of horses, giving them the love they deserved and training them at home. The experience changed Billy's perspective and left a huge mark on him. He learned a big lesson. What do you think of this story? Have you ever heard of illegal medical procedures on racehorses? Let us know in the comments. And don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe to the channel. See you next time.